and as well, introduce ourselves. So who we go first? Who we go first? Who would like to go first? Just need to introduce yourself. Hi, I'm this joining from, probably Lagos, Nigeria, or from Abuja, or from wherever you are joining us. So you just need to introduce yourself. Please, let's just try and make that snappy. I would appreciate if just speeding that up, right? So who will go first? I don't want to call name. I don't want to call. I don't want to do Uru.
Good evening, everyone.
Right.
My name is Emmanuel Iwuchukwu. I'm presently joining this meeting from Lagos State. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you, Emmanuel. A nice meeting you in this session. Who next? Who next? Who is going next?
I'm Bruno, currently from Lagos, Nigeria.
Okay, Bruno from Lagos, Nigeria. Okay, seems that Lagos is leading. Who next? Who is going next? Welcome, Bruno.
I'm Suleiman. I'm also joining from Lagos here as well.
Oh, this is great. I don't know if it's just me. I didn't get that.
Sorry, I said I'm joining from Lagos. Background noise.
Oh, great. Thank you for that. Yes, I got that. I got that. Thank you for that.
Everyone.
Yes, Mayo, I don't know if you can hear me. I heard what you said. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Yeah, who else is going? Who else is going? Just a minute and we'll just dive in because we have a whole lot that we are meant to cover in this very session. Okay.
Okay, I'm Rachel and I'm joining from Lagos.
Oh, welcome, Rachel. Nice meeting you. All right. So I guess okay.
Hello, I'm Emmanuel. Yeah. Emmanuel by name, joining from the UK. Yeah.
Oh, Emmanuel. Welcome, joining from the UK. You are the farthest person on this call. Okay. And what time is it now?
Yeah, it's the same time zone for now. It's 4:12.
Okay. All right. Good to have you, Emmanuel. All right. So we'll be starting now.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Ada. I'm joining from Enugu.
Wow. Okay. Ada from Enugu. Welcome, Ada. You are the second farthest person on this call. I think so. Yeah. You are the second farthest person on this call. Who else? Or is that all? All right. So we are 13 minutes behind schedule, so we just need to dive into what we have. I will be running us through a number of things shortly before we dive into the main stuff that we have for today, right? So welcome once again to Microsoft Eastern Power Platform Community Bootcamp session, and this bootcamp focus on understanding and writing DAX and in Power BI, right? So I understand that a number of us are just beginners, and while some others haven't used or haven't, write any DAX before, we have some intermediate persons, although they are not much, so we try as much as we can to blend the stuff, so that even those who are intermediate, we know that they're not beginners, right? They can equally gain value from this session, while those who are new to DAX, we equally benefit more. The beginners, we know that they've already gotten started with DAX. they will equally as well find the session highly interesting, right? So, and as we proceed, we will try as much as we can to make this very session interactive. As we all know, it's a 2 days session today, and we continue to finalize tomorrow, right? This is me. I'm Samson Obasi, data and content analyst at DBrown Consulting, a Microsoft and Google certified trainer and analyst, and the chief host of Microsoft Eastern Platform Community. So those are my handle. I know a lot of us joined via LinkedIn or came across this via LinkedIn. So yeah. All right. This my colleague and a friend, Joseph Fadero. So he will be much present in delivering this session, right? The business intelligence analyst at DBrown Consulting, right? A Microsoft certified data analyst, and those are his handle. You can connect to him on LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube, right? So he when the time comes, you hear from Joseph, right? So you hear from Joseph, right? So all right, understanding DAX. When we talk about DAX, for those of us who are beginners or intermediate, please can we help with a definition of DAX? What does DAX stands for? What does DAX stands for? Just to put simply, can anyone just help with that? I know we know that DAX is an acronym, right? But what does the DAX, what does it stands for? Can anyone help? So I just have, in the next 4 minutes, I should be done with what I need to disclose to us so that we can dive into the practical aspects, and looking at a real life scenario. Hi, I don't know if anyone can hear me. I don't know if I'm still on the call. Hope my line is not bad. Because I don't trust this network provider that I'm using. I hope you guys can hear
Hi,
me.
Samson. I can hear you. I can hear you.
All right, great. So I was asking if anyone can help with, a simple definition of DAX.
Hello.
Hello.
DAX is data analysis expression.
Okay, thank you for that. Say DAX stands for data analysis expression. Data analysis expression. So to put simply, I would say that yeah, like I had mentioned, DAX means data analysis expression and is a formula language developed by Microsoft for SQL, SQL service analysis, right? SQL Server Analysis Service, that is the SASS, right? And it's also used in Power Pivots in Excel or Power Pivots for Excel, as well as Power BI. So those are where you can use DAX, and it's been developed by, or it was developed by, Microsoft, right? So yeah. To also put, we said that DAX, I have just broken a number of things down for us to grab that, and we can dive into the main practical aspects, right? To also put, we say that DAX allows users to define custom formulas as well as calculation in order to create measures, calculated columns, and as well calculated tables. So all those we'll be looking into when we deep dive into the practical session. So I just want us to catch that. You can grab that, you can take a snapshot of that as well, right? In order to remember, and say that these formulas can perform calculations based on relationship between table, filtered data, as well as aggregate values, right? So for you to write DAX in Power BI or in Power Pivot for Excel, in Excel, right? You are looking at different tables, right? There must be a relationship between those tables. If there's no relationship, you won't be able to, come up with DAX that will work for you, right? So there must be a relationship, existing between tables for you to be able to have a working DAX, right? And DAX is highly, highly important. When Joseph comes on board, he will dive into the two, why you need DAX, looking at the practical aspects. So, like mentioned, that DAX can also be used to retrieve data from one or more, tables and perform calculation on data and as well return value. And the formulas are written in syntax similar to that of Excel. For those of us who are, good working with Excel, good in, creating and writing formulas, right? We should find it easy to relate with, writing DAX in Power BI, right? So because DAX follows or has similar syntax with Excel formulas, right? Formulas, functions, operators, as well as reference to columns and table. While writing DAX, you make reference to your column as well as your table, because those are the things that you can use to achieve whatever you want to achieve. Now, why is DAX important? It's very simple. Why is that important? Now, I know that a number of us haven't written any DAX before, right? But we've created reports using, what is it called? Power BI. We've created reports in Power BI, or maybe we've created a report in Excel. Probably you've used Power Pivot and not just Excel formulas and functions. You've used Power Pivot, right? You've utilized the power of Power Pivot in Excel to come up with a report or a dashboard, right? But why do you need DAX? Why do you literally need DAX? So one of the reasons why we need DAX, given that DAX is an explicit measure, right? Because whatever function that you are using in Excel, those are all implicit measures because they are inputs in those tool that you are using, be it Excel, be it Power BI. So those are inputs. You can quickly, come up with something using that. But if you would need to express yourself, if you need to gain more insight, from your data, there is need for you to express yourself, right? If you think that, oh, you need to gain more insight from this data that you are trying to analyze, there is need for you to express yourself. You shouldn't be, like, it's highly, will I say, impossible to a great extent, trying to express yourself and gain much insight from data using just the limited measures that you have, or the measure that you have in such tool, let's say Power BI or Excel, the implicit measure. So you need to express yourself. You need to create, manipulate, and the likes. So that is why you need DAX. One, to create complex calculations. That is one reason you need DAX. I won't be reading all through this. I just want you to get the point. To create complex calculation, so DAX allows you to perform that, right? And secondly, as a business intelligence analyst, you would want to express yourself, like I mentioned, right? To build a very rich and interactive dashboard or reports, you would need DAX. You would need DAX, right? For you to gain more insights from your data, you would need DAX, definitely. So it's highly important we take that into consideration. First, I said complex calculation. Second, why you need DAX is because you need to gain insight from your data as business intelligent analyst, or right. So thirdly, why we need DAX for data modeling. Now, DAX is tightly integrated with data modeling capability in Power BI and analysis and service tabular model. And I have stated here that it enables one to define relationship between, tables and create hierarchies when you tend to build your data model. So there are DAX written at the back end. So DAX helps you in data modeling. To put simply, in order to dwell much on that, we'll see that in detail as we proceed. Also, perform optimization, right? Writing different DAX formula is very crucial for good performance in Power BI, right? So to have a good report, you would need DAX. Most times you don't literally need calculated column, while cleaning your data. Maybe you are using Power Query to clean your data. You want to do some calculation, you try to, and you end up creating much more columns, right? Maybe probably the data that you're working with, already one table already have up to 30 or 40 columns, just one table, and you have probably 6 or 7 tables, right? And just one has up to 30 columns or 10 columns or 15 columns. But still yet you want to get more insights, right? You still feel that, for you to get this thing, you need calculated column. You need to, create some other column. Now, some of those things that you are probably like trying to get via calculated column can also be getting by writing DAX. Now, one of the disadvantage of having or creating calculated column is that it affects the performance of your report. The time at which it takes your report takes to respond will be much more longer than necessary if you have many calculated columns, right? So writing DAX helps to optimize, help to improve or have a good performance of your report. So looking at the major thing that we are doing in this bootcamp, it will include DAX, calculated columns. We'll treat calculated columns, measures, and implicit measure. For measure, we'll be looking at implicit measure. We'll be looking at explicit measures, and we'll be looking at types of measures. And as well, we'll be looking at calculated table and demo, right? So, and at this point, I would like to bring in Joseph to continue from this point. I would like to bring in Joseph, right? So Joseph will be taking us through, like I had mentioned, Joseph will be taking us through this session, right? So Joseph, over to you. I don't know if you can hear me. Over to you, Joseph.
Hi, Samson.
Hi, Joseph. How are you doing?
Okay, so I'm good. So let me first introduce myself. Okay, hi everybody. Good day, everybody. Thank you, Samson, once again for the opportunity, and thanks to the Eastern Power Platform community. So keep on checking on the Eastern Power Platform community. You will learn a lot from the community. So right now I'll share my screen. Kindly confirm you can hear me clearly.
Okay, I can hear you, Joseph.
Okay. Okay, so I'll be sharing my screen shortly. So kindly confirm you can see my. Hello, kindly confirm you can see my screen.
Yes, Joseph, we can see your screen.
Okay. So during this training, we're going to be going through some interest. Okay. Thank you for that. So during this training, we are going to be going through some interesting uh, DAX calculation, DAX measures as well. During this training, we are going to go through the aggregate functions. We have lots of aggregate functions. I'll be explaining how you can understand and how you can write those functions. We will go into iterator functions. What are iterator functions? I'm sure some of us we've heard of this Sumx, Countx, Averagex. We don't even know what do they do. Why should we? Why should I use a Sumx? Why shouldn't I use a sum? Why shouldn't I use a Countx? When should I use all of these measures? Uh, we'll be going through the some date functions, some interesting date functions which we can do in DAX. We'll be going to logical functions. So all the ifs, the not, and the not, the or, the is blank, is error. We'll be going through that in DAX during this session. We'll be going through the almighty calculate. So calculate is one of the most powerful functions in DAX. So I'll be explaining what calculate is and how you can use calculate effectively. Then we'll touch time intelligence functions and some of these other parts in in tomorrow's session. So I'm sure we're all excited. I am excited to kickstart the the training. So I'm going to proceed. So first of all, I'll just state with DAX we can create three basic things. We can create three of these things. We can either use DAX to create a calculated column. We can use DAX to create a measure. We can use DAX to create a table. My colleague Samson has explained a lot about calculated columns, measures, tables. So I think he has done justice to this, but this is just a summary. Calculated columns in Power BI is a new column that is created from one or more existing columns. So you can create a new column based on an existing column. So calculated columns are often used to add new data. They are used to calculate new values, and they're also used to format data. So calculated columns, they are very good to add pieces of information which are not originally part of your data. So imagine you want to add a comment, or you want to analyze based on a comment, you want to do some further analysis to your data, you can use a simple calculated column. But like Samson said, there are some issues, not really issues, but if you are looking at performance case where you don't want to increase the size of your model, calculated column may not be best. There are some cases where you use measures, and there are some cases where a simple calculated column would do. Okay, so with measures, there are two types of measures we can create, implicit and explicit measure. To explain this, Samson has done justice to that explanation as well, but I'll be explaining it with the Power BI file, the Power BI report. Just to confirm, did we all get this Power BI demo file? You can react, you can do a reaction on your Teams. You can drop a message on the chat. Did you get this Power BI demo file? Okay, Rachel says she got it. So you can check your email if you got the file.
Hi Joseph. So they can, I don't know how many of us have access to the chat box on this course. So you can just decide to make use of the chat box to indicate whether or not you receive the file, right? Thank you.
Yes. Okay, yes. So like Samson said, we can do that as well. So if you receive the file, so just indicate. You can type a comment on the chat board, so we'll know. Okay, so I want us to open this Power BI demo file. This RLS in Power BI demo file. I want us all to open this file, so you can practice along. So it's not just all talks. Yeah. So so you can practice along as well. Hey, I'm not seeing comments. I'm not seeing reactions. I can only see Rachel's reaction. Should we take it as?
Give us a little time, please. Give us a little time, please. Let's get
Okay.
it from the email.
Okay.
Okay, Marcus said that he has opened it. How many of us have opened or has the file open?
I have it now. Thank you.
Okay, great. Hi, Joseph, are you on the call?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes. So you just
Okay.
need to confirm, maybe probably, yeah.
Okay. Okay, it's good. So I've gotten response from 2 people. So I believe we have it. Maybe the others are just downloading it. So okay, so I'll proceed with my explanation. So when okay. Please install Power BI desktop on your laptop. Okay, so this
And
is the
just to chip in
file.
something.
Okay.
Sorry, Joseph, just to chip in something. So if anyone is still having same challenge as Emmanuel trying to install Power BI, right? I would just encourage us to probably listen and just watch as Joseph goes through the whole demo process and give explanation. So you can always try to replicate what has been done in session via the recording, right? So yeah, in order not to try getting one and still miss out in the whole stuff. All right, Joseph.
Okay, so thank you very much for that, Samson. So yes, so that's what we'll do in order not to wait to take too much of our time. So what are implicit measures? So implicit measures these are measures created by Power BI itself. So they are created by Power BI itself. What do I mean? So when I click on a value field, if you are new to Power BI, which but I believe some of us should have some experience with Power BI, this is the home. This is the reporting view. We have reporting view, the model view, the data and the model view. So, and this here right here is the data pane. So just like field pane, if you've been using pivot table in in Excel, so that's how it is. So right now, under the fact cells, so this data contains records. So it contains 4 dimensions and one fact file. So like something stated earlier, for you to write your DAX effectively, there has to be a relationship between tables in your data. So the relationship which we have here is we have a one-to-many relationship. We have the dimensions. Dimensions are descriptive attributes which tell us more about our data. While facts are data that grows every day. They are like your daily transactions that happens every day. So these are your facts data. While your dimensions contains pieces of information that tells us more about the fact. So I'm just dropping this in for those who are relatively new to Power BI. So that's how this data set is filed. The dimension files are called D underscore. They have a D underscore to their name, and inclusion with this line of business is also a dimension file. And one thing you need to know, these dimension files filter this your fact sales. They filter this your fact information, sales information, and these dimensions have to contain unique values. So that's just a brief summary into data modeling. I'm sure Samson has plans to take data modeling sometime in the future. So you can look out for that class as well. So right now I'm just going to click on this fact sales and I'm going to click on a value field. A value field means is any field you see this summation, this line on is showing you is a value field, and a value field could be a number or decimal number, currency or so. Those are value fields in your data. So the moment I just click on this, we can see Power BI automatically gets me this. It gets me this answer, sum of revenue. Power BI in the back end did a calculation to get this sum of revenue. They did a calculation to get this entire sum of revenue. They sum this revenue column. So if I go to the data view, I click on this fact file, they sum this revenue column and they got this sum of revenue. So this as it is an implicit measure because Power BI is doing the calculation for you. But the issue with implicit measures is that because you don't know how the calculation is came about, you don't know what is being summed up to get this revenue, was how the calculations come about. But we know it is most likely the revenue column which is used. If you want to use this summed up value of this revenue to do further calculations, we can't do that. We can't use it because this calculation is done inside Power BI. We can't reference this 73 billion naira again elsewhere for another calculation. So that's the difference between implicit. Implicit, Power BI automatically does the calculation for you. So right now we're going to create an explicit measure. So I'm going to close this. Before you start creating your measures, ideally it's normally best you have like a dedicated measure table. The reason why measure tables are good is for auditing purpose. So if you have a single place where you have your measures, all your measures stored, you can easily go back there and audit it rather than if it's scattered across different tables in your different tables in your data. So right now I'm going to create a dedicated measure table, and how I can do this is just a quick pointer. My interface may be a bit different from yours. The reason why is a bit different from yours is under my, is one of the updates I did to my Power BI. So under your file, if you go to options and settings, you don't have to do this update. I just chose to do the update as well. If you click on options, then under options, you have preview features. So preview features give you access to all the latest features which are being installed into Power BI. So you could tick those that applies to you, those that you find useful and all. But one thing you need to know about preview features is that they keep on, because Power BI is just testing it out, so there may be changes to them. So you have to be careful when you're on which features you turn on. To have this sort of interface which I have, I turned on this on object interaction. So I turned on this on object interaction. Yes, so somebody in the chat mentioned it as well. So on object interaction gives me this feature, this interface which I have, but you can still practice along with the demo. Something may just be in a bit of a different play, but you can turn this on if you must. But it's still the same Power BI which we have. So I have that. So the difference between that is we, unlike your own Power BI, you would have a visualization pane somewhere here, and you have a data pane here. I have a visual gallery on top, which I can select the visual I want to use. Okay, so right now under this my home tab, I can see get data. We already have the data that we need, so we're not going to be talking on getting data in Power Query. Or so, but for this demo, I want to do something called enter data, which this is the icon for it. In your own, you could have it as enter data. So if you click on it to create, it helps you to create a table. And for this table, I'm going to call this table underscore measure. I'll just call this underscore measure. So I'll know this is my measure. I can even call it underscore measure table. So I know this is my measure table. You can leave the first column there, and we're just going to load it. So it will be loading it into a data model. So this will be our dedicated measure table. So once we create a new measure, we can get rid of this column that is here. So right now I'm going to click on this more options, and I'm going to do a new measure. So by clicking on new measure, I can create a new measure. So right now we're going to create this same sum of revenue. We're going to create this same sum of revenue. But like I said, for implicit measure, Power BI is doing it. Is doing it from the back end, but you can't see the formula it used to generate it. But explicit measures, if we want to reference this 73 billion again, we can use something called explicit measures. So I'll just call this rev. I'll call this rev equals to. So with Power BI, when you're writing DAX, so let me increase this. So I can increase the icon, yes, just to make it a bit more better. When you're writing DAX, it's important to note you first start with the name of the measure which you want to use, then an equal to. So I know people from Excel backgrounds, you first start with equal to, then start writing your function or your formula. But with DAX, it's quite different. You first call your function, your expression a name, then you start declaring what your expression is. So I'll call this rev to represent the total revenue, and I'll call this, I'll do an equal to. So to make your DAX a bit more finer, more readable when you're writing it. Well, I could just, let me just do a normal sum. I'll just do a normal sum. By typing sum, I can see the options for sum. For sum here, I can see sum, I can see summarize, I can see summarize columns, I can see sum X. We explain what the X does and what the sum does. I'll just click on tab. And sum is quite an easy measure. What sum does is sum asks you for the name or the name of the column you want to sum up. And the column in this example that I want to sum up is fact sales revenue. So I just need fact sales revenue. So this is the column I want to sum up, that revenue column. And I'll just close my bracket. So that is the first measure. This is an aggregate function. So I'll just click on this commit to mark my measure. Then I close this and I just click on this rev. I have a card visual that is showing the same. It's showing the same thing. This one is without decimal place. I can get rid of the decimal place by clicking on the measure. Then under the measure tools, I have a place where I can determine the number of decimal place I want. I can keep it at 0, hit enter, and we have 0 decimal place. So we have these two measures. These two give the same results. Remember, this one Power BI did it by itself. This one I did it by myself. I did it by myself. So what's the importance? Why should we have explicit measures instead of implicit measures? Okay, now we have this 73 billion naira. If we want to see, okay, how much would we have made if we increase this revenue by, let's say, 5%, this revenue by 5%. With this implicit measure, we can't do that. We don't have the options to do that. And just to clarify, so clicking on this card visual, if I click on this add or remove button, so if I click on this top button, I can see the default summarization is sum. I can right click to change it to different summarization. I can change this to average. I can change this to mean. I can change it to max. I can change it to count. I can change it to standard deviation, variance, median. I can change all of this. I can change that. But for this explicit measures, it's just worthy to note you don't have that option to change it. You can't change the default summarization of explicit measures. But for the implicit one, you can. But like I said, the reason why it's normally advised to have explicit measures is if you want to reference this same measure in another calculation, you want to reference this 73 billion naira, you want to see, okay, how much would we have done if we have like a 5% increment to this revenue. So what I'll just do is I'll come here, click on new measure, and I'll call this let's say prospective revenue. And all I just need to do is type rev, right? And it shows me this is a measure. The measures have this calculation on them. I just need to click on this. Then I will just multiply this by, let's say, 0.05%, 0.05. Yeah, let's say. So we have this. okay, so rather than multiplied by 0.05, let me just multiply by 5. So if we did 5 times of our revenue, so if we did 5 times of our revenue, this is how much we would have. This is how much we would have made. So that's the beauty of having explicit measures. You can reference this measure in a whole lot more calculations, but unlike this one, which is done by Power BI itself, you can't reference it again. You can't reference it again. You only have to reference it on that particular visual you are showing. Okay, and is the next point which I'm going to talk about is measures use something called filter context. What do I mean? So in this scenario, we are seeing the revenue, right? We're seeing the revenue, right? If I click on, I just click on one of the dimension. I click on the region dimension. We still have this 76 billion. Let me just turn on the data label. Turn on the data label. The total of this still amounts to the 76 billion. But what measures does that, unlike calculated column, is Power BI does the calculation. Power BI does this calculation of this 6 million based on the filter context we have, based on the fields in which we are filtering the measures by. What do I mean? So Power BI says, okay, this revenue that you are talking about, this 76 billion naira, Power BI says, okay, how much would it have been if it is in a region? How did the region spread across to get this revenue? And that's what measures do. So measures act on something called filter context. The filter context is determined by what you are slicing or what you are filtering your value by. So that's the major difference between measures and calculated column. So let's talk a bit on calculated columns. So right now I'm just going to go to the fact sales. So if we notice measures, we can't see our measures. We can't see our measures on our data view. We can't see our measures on our data view. But if we come to this, we can see the data that we have here on this our data view. So data view is where you check the data you have brought into Power BI, but we can't see measures there. But we can see calculated columns on our data view. So like Samson said, the calculated columns are stored in memory in your data. So they add to the load of your data sets. But right now, we're just going to create a simple calculated column. So how to create a calculated column? You can create it from this data view. We can come to the normal report and we come to the modeling tab and we can do a calculated column from here. But I'm going to do it from the data tab. It works both ways, but I just want to see the data that I'm adding it to directly on. So I'm going to do this in the fact sales. So right now we have revenue and we have units sold right here. So let's say we want to get the price. We want to get the price of our data, right? We want to get the price of our data. So right now, how would we know the price? So ideally, price, okay, let me just ask my audience. So let me be sure my audience are still listening. So what's the formula to get revenue? Normal formula to get revenue. Just the simple formula to get revenue.
Okay, revenue is mostly price times units sold.
Okay, price times units sold. Exactly. So would we say, just mathematically speaking, would we say our price should be our revenue divided by our units sold. Is that logic correct? Anybody in the house, is that logic correct?
No, it's not correct. It's price multiplied by units sold, not divided.
No, I said if we are to get our price, and we have our revenue and we have our units sold, should we say our price is equal to our revenue divided by our units sold?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so that logic makes sense, right? I just want to be sure it makes sense with everyone here. So right now, just click on a new column. I just want to see, okay, how much did we sell probably each unit, right? So I'll just call this price. I'll call this price and I'll do this is equal to. So when you are using, if you want to reference a column in a formula, you'd use this bracket. You use this type of bracket, this type of bracket, this square bracket. And I'm just going to type revenue here. I hit my tab, then I'll just do divided by units sold. And this should give me my price. Right? So if we multiply this 12, this 1240 times this 12, we should normally get this 14,880, right? Who can quickly do the calculation? So we should normally get that. So this shows you how we can use calculated columns to add pieces of information into our data which were not normally initially part of our data. So with this, you can do something like maybe price analysis with your data based on the fact that it wasn't there. So I did this price on this facts sales column. Right. So
Hello,
for
can I ask a question?
okay, please go ahead.
How did you get the Naira sign in the calculated column you just did?
Okay, so it is set as currency. The data type was set as currency. So if you click on this currency, if you see this dot, you can see this normal display value is showing dollars. So if I click on this drop down icon, I can select my default currency which I want. And mine is set on Naira. But I could even change this to, okay, since the data is based on Naira, I think it's fine. But sometimes it's good if your data is a decimal number, if you are not sure of the currency you are using. Sure. So yes, that's how we can use the calculated column to just quickly see this piece of information. So yes, so on still on aggregate functions, we can do another aggregate function by new measure. We do for the average revenue to get the same. We call this AVG rev to get the average revenue. And we just use average and we specify the column that we want to use, which is fact sales revenue, and we have the average revenue. I just need to hit enter and we have this. So we can do basic aggregate functions, and the basic ones, which is the average, I'll do count again just so that we are fully aware of this. The basic ones, the average, the counts, rev, which I don't know why I'll be counting the revenue per se, but it's fine. I'll just call this counts equals to counts, and I'll call this uh, fact revenue. So the basic ones ask for the name of the expression, you are using. It could be sum, it could be count, it could be mean, it could be max, it could be average, and in a bracket, the required argument is requesting for is a column. What column do you want to reference? Right? So that's how the basic aggregates, which are the basic aggregate functions, that's how they function. And I have this counts and counts sales. If I want to distinctly count a column, so if I want to distinctly count how many line of business were referenced in this fact sales, I can do count distinct. So these are still under basic aggregate functions. For this distinct underscore count equals to distinct. So there's a distinct count function, and all I just need to specify is the name of the column in which I want to count. So I just do this and I close my brackets and I hit enter. So these are basic aggregates aggregate functions. So they just require you to supply a column which you want to aggregate, because Power BI calculates things based on the column context. Unlike Excel that does normally row by row, Power BI normally does it by column context. It checks a column and it calculates, does the aggregation based on that column context. If you want Power BI to work based on row context, that's when you use stuff called iterator functions. What are the iterator functions we have? We have the X, all the Sumx, the Countx, the Averagex, the maxx, and I'll be explaining a good use case scenario for these iterator functions. So I'm sure the basic ones are quite clear. They are quite easy to do and they're quite clear. They are just easy average counts. The normal way you do it in Excel, you can replicate that process in Power BI. But let me give an instance. Let me just say this revenue in this are fact sales revenue. So let's just look at this are fact sales data. Just click on this our fact sales data. This revenue in this our fact sales data, if we want to see which line of business adds to what revenue is for a particular line of business. Okay, we want to see, oh, how much did this particular line of business do? Because we have number of line of business. If I click on this, I can see the 4 line of business that we have here. We want to see how much, what will be the revenue that each of this line of business got. Like what will be the revenue parts got, what will be the revenue printer sale got or service plan got. You know what? Let me bring it to our everyday tool. I know a lot of us probably like Excel. So we have this case scenario. This is just a simple Excel data. We have line of business, we have revenue. And we want to calculate, oh, how much the parts get in this revenue? How much, let's say we have a total revenue, how much the copier sale, what's the sum value for all the copier sales in this revenue? How would we do it normally with Excel? Any Excel guru in the house?
What's the question?
Okay. So we have this table of data. We have this simple table of data. We want to see how many revenue. These are the revenue for this line of business. We want to see how many revenue that parts got, copier sales got. Remember, they appeared more than once in this transaction. We want to see how many revenue this individual products got. How would we do it in Excel?
I think we are going to use a distinct thing.
You're actually going to use a sum statement.
Okay. Okay, so the person that says sum if exactly, we can use a simple sum if for this. So we do sum if, we specify the range, then the criteria we want to specify the range of value. I'll just use this. I can log this just to the criteria will be this part. Then the sum range, which is the range of values we want to sum, which will be this. Then lock it again. And it tells me how much parts sold. So we can just do a normal, since they are just two appearance of parts, we do this plus maybe this, and we can see the value is correct. So this is how we will normally do it in Excel. But in Power BI, how would we go about doing this? How would we go about doing sum if, average if in Power BI? For those of you that have been using Power BI, since I'm sure if you try the DAX expression, so let's even try. So new measure, I'm going to call this parts revenue, parts underscore revenue. So I want to also try, is there some if in DAX? Is there some if in DAX? Is there count if in DAX?
There's a function that can do something that aligns those conditions on those functions.
Okay, I can't really hear you, so maybe you can type in the chat. So that may be best. Okay.
Hello.
So yes, I can hear you.
Please, I've been trying to pick myself. I don't know, from my own thing here, it's like I'm wasting my data and time. I don't know if can have access to the recorded this thing. I'm having the headache since we started this class, and I can't really assimilate anything.
Oh, sorry about that.
Are we
Yeah,
going to
so
have the recorded listen so that we
Yes,
can watch
please.
later?
Yes, please. Just a minute. I will drop a form. Sorry, before you log off, I will drop a form on the chat where you can just drop your email, or probably you just drop your email.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm
I will
sorry.
drop a form. I will drop a form now. Just a minute before you log off. I will drop a form on the chat. Then you just fill it.
Sorry for interrupting, Mr. Sampson. Can you hear me? Please, I would like to get the recordings too.
No, yeah, it will be made available to everyone that stays to the end, right? But since he said that he's leaving, that's why I just needed him to fill it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you for that, for informing us about that. Okay, so yeah. So those of us that are used to Power BI DAX, I'm sure we've tried it before. We've tried to use
Have you dropped it?
Just a
it's
minute,
going to
please.
drop it, so you can just check the chat.
I'm trying. Just a minute.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so those of us that are used to Power BI DAX and DAX measures and all, I'm sure we've asked ourselves the question, how can we do summing based on a condition, based on a parameter, right? How can we do sum ifs? How can we do average ifs and stuff like that? For you to achieve something like this, there are actually two methods you can use, but this is where iterator functions comes in. So one thing I'll be teaching you best practice on how to write DAX. So ideally, when you're writing your DAX, you do a shift enter to make to do a line below. Shift enter is a shortcut to have a line break below. And I'll call this sum X. So X, all the functions you see X are iterator functions. What they do is that they calculate row by row in your data. Remember, I said Power BI normally calculates column based on the column, right? But for the iterator functions, they calculate row by row in your data. So they can be used to help us get this some ifs and count ifs that we want. But that's if you know how to use them well. So sum x, this is the iterator function, and sum x, the iterator functions asks for two expressions, two arguments rather. A table, the table could refer to a physical table. That means a table stored in your data model, or an expression which leads to a table. That means a table expression an expression which can help you generate a table. And an expression that can help you generate a table is filter. So filter is one of those expressions which can help you generate a table. I'll do a shift enter again. So a shift enter, so my formula looks a bit nice and auditable. I hit tab after the filter. So filter asks for a table to and a filter expression. In this case, I want to filter okay, I want to filter the fact sales table. I'll just call it fact sales end table. And I want the filter expression. What do I want to filter? Line of business to be equal to parts. So this is the first argument of my table. This filter fact sales line of business equals to parts. We generate a table in it will generate a virtual table which will be used for summing up expression. Then all I just need to do is, after I've done this, is feed in an expression to it. What will be the expression? The expression will be the revenue. So I want to filter the revenue based on parts. So the reason why I said you do a shift enter is if you want to write a comment to your code. Comments are good to provide users. So if you are sharing your code to someone else, so they can be able to read, oh, what does this line do? What's the point of this line? Okay, why are you doing this? Why are you not doing this? So it helps people, other users of your report or your Power BI desktop file, to understand what's going on in your file. So I can just do double quotation, double slash, and this helps generate a comment line. Or I can do two of this, and this also generates a comment line. The comments are not part of your code, so they will not be run with your codes per se, but they'll just be part of your, they'll just be for the users to see. And once I start typing a comment, it will appear in green. I'll call it this refers to a table. So you are noticing is in green. These parts are not part of your code. They are just there as comments. I can do this. This also is a comment. This makes sure the filter is part. So right here, you can do either one of this or either two of this or two of this. So these are single line comments and they are very good for your DAX expression. After I'm done, I'll just close the brackets like this. So, and I hit this commit button. So when I click on this parts revenue, I can see this 7.56. If I want to be sure, oh, is this actually the revenue for copier sales parts, for line of business parts? What I'll do is under this fact sales, or I could just click on this revenue. I'll click on this revenue in general. This is the revenue, and I'll bring in a slicer for line of business. Change this to a slicer. And all I'll just need to see is parts. So this, remember this, because this is showing in decimal place. If I format this to be no decimal place, we have the same answer. So it should show 8 billion, 8 billion. So the difference between this, I know you're wondering, okay, if I could slice the answer before, why didn't I just do that instead of doing this? Because if I want to reference this parts revenue, if I want to see, oh, what the revenue for parts and probably something else, I can reference this formula again, just this 8 billion naira result again in my formulas. So that's the beauties and that's the advantage of using iterator functions. So just like the same way goes for average, we can use one good thing we can do. I can just come here. What was the expression we have? We have this as parts revenue. I'll just do Control A. I copy the code. Control C. So Control A to highlight everything. Control C to copy it again. Then I'll come here. Or I can come under here. Right click and do new measure. So I'll just paste it and I'll call this AVG parts revenue, and I'll change this from Sumx to Averagex. Averagex. And it will give me, this time it will give me the average of the revenue. So I just click on this and we have this as the average of the revenue. If I change this, if I can check this by creating another measure or slicing this, creating another measure for average revenue and just slicing it. But yeah, okay, I have a measure for average revenue. So let me just bring that in. Okay, so we can see we have the correct results. So remember, iterator functions, what they do is they go across rows. So what it did, let me explain the formula again. It went to this data view. It went to this fact sales table. It went to all these rows, each of these rows for parts. It was summing up the revenue for parts. It was going row by row for parts. Because remember the filter part of the expression helps us to generate a table or just filtering. Imagine if I just filtered this. So let me just deselect this to parts. So that's what the filter table. So it's created this table for us. Like this table filtered to just parts for us. And it just summed up the revenue based on that. And select all instead. And I click on OK. So we can do the same process for Averagex, max, mid X, Countx, but that's how iterator functions go. So right now I'm going to talk about going to talk about logical functions. So logical functions in Power BI, logical expressions. So we have the if, we have the and, we have the not. Let me open my slide. So I'll go back to this. So we have the if, we have the and, we have the not, we have the or, we have is blank, we have is error. Okay, okay. So before I jump into logical functions, I will go back to date functions. So what are date functions in Power BI? We have a whole lot of date function, and for those that are going to stay in the end, stay to the end, we are going to give some wonderful gifts, which is we are going to give the DAX, a DAX guide for you to see the functions, the syntax, so you'll be able to understand the syntax in which you are going to use to write expressions. We are going to give that to you as well, and we're also going to give a PDF, a complete DAX guide as well. So just ensure you stay tuned and you listen to as much as you can on the recording
Joseph,
or the hello.
sorry, Joseph reporting. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Please, I'm on transit. I'm actually traveling from one state to another, so I plan not to miss this event. That's why I am using my mobile phone. And besides, my phone is less than 20%, and in a few minutes down, my go off. So as regards the gifts you said, I think I really need it to, if at all, probably should just find like another criteria so I can have access to the gift due to the reasons I gave. And please, I'm really interested in the guide and everything, but there is higher chances I won't be able to make up. I'm on transit like this. That's why I've not been able to participate very well, because the network is fluctuating big time. But I don't want to miss anything, but there's higher chances I won't stay today.
Okay,
All
thank
right.
you for that. Okay, Samson, you can go ahead. I think you
Yeah,
wanted to
yeah.
say something.
I wanted saying that is noted. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you for that. Thank you for bringing that to our notice. Yeah, thank you. So date functions. So with dates, just like in Excel, you can do some date functions in Power BI, and date functions can be used to help you to create tables. Right, we have date functions which could be used to help us to create tables. Remember, we said with DAX we can create calculated columns, we can create measures, and we can create tables. We can create tables. So I'll be showing date functions and I'll be showing how it can be used to create tables. So right now, I'm going to click on modeling and I'm going to click on new, created new table. So this new table, I click on this. So on this our data, we already have this day calendar table, but supposing you don't have a date table, you don't have a calendar table, you don't have a calendar information table, and you want to create a calendar table, how can you go about doing this with DAX? So we can do this. I'll just call this, since we already have a calendar table, I'll just call this date underscore table. And I'll just say this is equal to, so I'll just do shift enter. So for this date table, the function which can help us to create a table, we have two functions which could help us to do this. We have the calendar and the calendar auto function. We have the calendar and we have the calendar auto function. What the calendar auto function will do is, Power BI will look at our columns of data. It will automatically give us a date table based on the earliest date and the last date in our data without us defining what they are. So I can just do calendar auto close bracket. and I hit this to commit. To create this as a date table, I come to this my date field, and I can see this date table is already created based on that, based on this calendar auto function. But let's say we want to specify okay, yeah, this is our start date, this is our end date. How can we go about creating a date table with this? We can use another function called the calendar function. The calendar function, this one, you have to specify the start date and the end date for the function. So the start date will normally be the minimum. We can use mean in this sense. Mean represent minimum. So just like I said, DAX expressions are quite similar to your Excel, to your normal Excel formulas and functions. So we have mean, we have max, just like in Excel. And I'll just use mean to get me the minimum dates in my fact sales table. So the fact sales table contains a date called trade date. So if I type facts sales, so it contains this trade date. So it will give me the minimum value in this trade date, right? So remember, see what it asks for. It asks for a column name or a scalar one. So it returns the smallest value or smallest string in a column or the smaller value between two scalar expressions. Ignore logical values. So what it means is that if we have two dates we want to know, or if we have two numbers, we want to know which one is smaller than the other. Ideally, normally we would give it as, let's say we have 1 and we have 2. Mean will return 1. So that's what it did. But since we don't need a scalar 2, we don't need another thing we're comparing it to this instance, because we know it's just the trade date we want to see the minimum dates for. Then I'll do comma. I want to get the last date in the fact sales trade date. So that'll be my end date. There are two expressions I can use for this. I can use max and I can use last date. I can use max. I'll call this max. And because Power BI, just like Excel, recognizes data as numbers, so this is why this max could also work. So I'll just type facts. I could just copy this since it's basically the same thing. Ctrl C, Ctrl V. Right? So right now, I'll just do a close bracket and I hit commit. I still get the same result. So I get the minimum dates, and this is set to date time. I can change this to dates. I can change this to date data type. Let me just change it to date data type. So we have this data type. So let's say now we've created this date table, there are two ways we can go about adding columns to this date table. We can add columns in this single expression. We can do all of that in this single expression. Well, that may be a bit for the too advanced users, but I will show you how to do that. Or we can just create new columns which represents formulas and functions which can help us get date values. Let me show that first. So how we will go about doing this is this date table. I've created this date table. So I'm going to come here, click on new column. So I want to get the year. I want to get the year in this date column, date table. I want it as a column. I just call this year and I do equals to. I just use the year. So we have the year function, and now we represent the dates that I just created. Remember, if you want to reference a column, you use this type of brackets. Then just close my bracket. So we have the year here. Okay, I can come about adding a new column for the months. For the months, I can do for the months, I can do for month sorts. So there's a function called months, but if I use months, it will show me the date value in 1, 2, 3. So let me just use months. I'll call this month sort and I'll show what I mean. So if I do months and I hit tab, I just need to specify the dates and it will show me the date value in 1, 2, 3. So that means 1 representing January, 2 representing February, 3 representing March, and so on and so forth. So if I want to see the full month name, I can come here again, click on this icon, click on new column, and I'll call this month name. And for this, for the Excel analysis in there, you can use the normal format function. So if I type format, I hit tab, all I just need to do is specify the value in which I want to format, which will be the dates, then comma, the format in which I want it to be. So for those that know the normal format, the date format, we have a single M for the normal one. We have 2M for the 01. We have 3M for the Jan, 4M for January. So if I do 4M, I do the I keep it in a string like this. I close my brackets and it will give me the month's name as well. So with this, these are some of the dates functions we have. We have the simple year, we have the months, we have the dates, we have the calendar auto. We also have time functions like time, hour. We have hour, we have minutes, we have seconds. So it's the functions just like how it does in Excel. It helps us to pull out that piece of information from probably a date time data type. So if it was a date time, if I wanted to get the time, I would use the time function and stuff like that. So remember, I said I could have in this single date expression, I could have done all of these functions in this single date expression. I could have added all these columns in this single date expression, but that will lead us to using something called variables in Power BI, but I think checking by the time, maybe that would be shown in the next class. That will be shown in Sunday's class as well. But right now, I want us to quickly go into logical functions. Then we would dive right into. Okay, nice question, Bruno. So you said you tried doing, I'm pretty sure, okay, you tried doing day sort. Okay, Bruno is telling us about his past experience and it came at 0 instead of 1, right? So yes. So our Power BI reads data. Our Power BI starts with 0, start with 0. So that means in that type of instance, we have 0, then it ends at 6 instead of 1 to 7, which is your normal instance. So that's why you got that issue. So that's why you got that issue. I could do day in this new column. So let me just do it to see. New column. So just to see, so I'll call this day sort like he stated. Day sort. So I'll call this day, and I reference the date. And I'll hit is the day sort. Then I'll do a new measure for day. A new column for day. And I'll use the format for this. Call this day. I'll use the format for this. This is this. Okay, so this I should have done week. I should have done weekday, right? It's weekday I was referring to. I think that should give me. Okay, so yeah, you have this expression. So what expression did you use to try to sort the day? Right.
Okay,
Hello?
so yeah, I did not use DAX, but rather what I did was I used Power Query Editor, so duplicated the what's the name, the colon, then formatted it. So what's the
Okay.
name? Yeah.
Okay, so Power Query uses zero system. So you can read up more on Power Query. I think Samson, you've done a class on Power Query before. Maybe I do plan to do one later in future to show that. But yeah, but I think you should just look out for Samson class. So I think Samson did some interesting stuff on Power Query before. But if you use the weekday, you should get the proper sorting of the date from 1 to 7. But in Power Query uses the zeros. The zero system starts from 0 normally. But so that's how Power Query does. So you can, for the DAX, you can just use the weekday function to get to the day of the week. Yeah. I hope that's clear. Hello?
Hello. I did the weekday, but I'm getting different values from what you got.
Okay. Weekday
I
on Scott. Can you see
yeah,
the expression on my?
yes, I use the same expression. I'm getting Tuesday. I got 3 anyway. So I don't know where the frequency. I got 3 in the sort. Then I got on the name I got Tuesday. As in the first row there. And I got Friday, January 3rd.
Okay, it's actually okay. So Friday, January 3rd is correct. Friday. Your second day should be Saturday, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So what do you have in your day column?
In my day column, I have Tuesday as the first column. First row. Second row, I have Wednesday. But in the date, I have Friday, January 3rd. Then Saturday, second column, Saturday, January 4th.
Okay, can you check if you mistakenly did a filter or a filter on your data?
No, there's no filters.
Okay, so if you look at this my formula, so this is the formula I use for the day formula. So just look at it, take a peek at it. Let me drop it in the chat just in case. We can also practice along. So maybe you mistakenly did. So I've dropped it in the chat so you could copy that. So have you seen that?
Yep.
Okay.
Hello, Joseph.
Okay, I can
Hello.
hear you. Please. Yes, I can hear you. Please
Okay.
go ahead.
Thanks for the training. Please, I just want to clarify the effect of that calendar minimum and maximum. How did it impact the table?
Okay. What do you mean by how do they? The minimum and maximum, what the minimum and maximum are doing is the minimum is checking this fact sales trade data dates to find the minimum dates, and this minimum date is what will help us to get our start dates. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. It's what will help get us our start dates. We need to know which date should we start from. So if I go to this trade, this fact sales trade data, so the trade dates contains when the trade starts from. So if I want to see the earliest dates, yeah, I can just go and I can see Friday, the 3rd of 2014. So that's what the minimum date, the minimum is helping us to get. Remember, dates are recognized as numbers. It's just like in Excel, dates are recognized as numbers. So the minimum date is this date. Then the maximum date is, we look at this trade date and it will return this Tuesday, 30th of June, 2015 as the maximum dates applicable there. So it's going to give us a date that ranges between these between our start date and our end date. So that's what the calendar function will help us to get.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. And the moment once you're done creating it, it's always good to mark as date table. So, but the thing is, if you already have some time intelligence function created, that's why normally it's best you first create your date table. If you plan to create your date table in DAX, if you have your other time intelligence function turned on before, once you click on this mark as date table, it could scatter. It will switch off the auto date time which Power BI automatically sets. So if you check on your file, your options and setting, you click on options and you click on, while it's coming up, um that should be, is it reports? Oh, is it data load? So I'm just looking for a setting. Okay, this auto date and time features for new file. So Power BI automatically turns on this auto date and time feature, which helps create hierarchies. So normally when you
bringing a data into Power BI, I'm sure, just like in pivot table, I'm sure when you click on the dates column also, it will now start generating hierarchies for months, for all of this. So if you can see, this column I even did, it generated an hierarchy because I had not marked as date table. The moment you marked as date table, Power BI stopped creating those automatic date table at the back end. What Power BI normally usually do is it will check your data and it will create a hidden date table at the back end for you to do your time intelligence formula. But if you already have a predefined date table set already, which is this option mark as date table, Power BI will turn off all those automatic date tables you have there. So you will now have to, in your time intelligence measures, you now have to reference this new date table which you've created. So that's just something you should note. I wouldn't do that because this report, we already have some interesting measures created on it. But normal practice, when you create a date table, you mark as date table to ensure Power BI turns off all those pre-existing hierarchy, pre-existing automatic calculations set up there. So before we will call it a day, I'm just quickly talk a bit on logical functions. So logical functions, and
Hi,
we'll,
Joseph.
okay,
Yeah,
can
sorry,
proceed.
before you continue, I think Emmanuel's hand is up and Ada hand is up as well. Okay.
Oh, my issue has been sorted.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, it's easy and sorry. Yeah.
All right, proceed, Joseph. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Samson. Okay. Okay, so logical functions. So
Bruno,
I
Bruno
will,
raised his hand. Sorry.
yeah,
Bruno has his hand raised.
Bruno, please proceed.
Okay, hi. Just like how we have the dates hierarchy, do we have a time hierarchy? Hello.
Hello. Yeah, so if you click on this file options or certain options, so just to show, so can you see auto date or time for new files? So you can actually even create a, I understand what you mean, maybe by hour, seconds, minutes.
Yes,
Yes, yes,
exactly.
exactly. Yeah, you can. It's not normally that same because well, it depends on the data you're working with. If your data if your data has a date and time column or has a single time column, you can use it, or Power BI should be able to detect it's a time value and should be able to detect the hierarchies in between. But you can create a hierarchy in Power BI, which is quite simple. By if you click on this, icon, you can see something called, just trying to, okay, so the new hierarchy, well, Microsoft normally does constant update. So the options would normally there, but you can also do it in your model view and you can create a hierarchy from there by maybe highlighting two columns and scrolling to the advanced. I just select these two columns. Or okay, just one, right click and create hierarchy. So you can do it in the model view. You could do it in the report view before, but for some reason I can't I'm not seeing it yet. So maybe it's a new update they've done. They keep, like I said, they keep on updating Power BI, but you can always find it in your model view. You just right click, um, select the column you want, right click, create new hierarchy.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
when
thank you. Another thing too.
You said?
Another thing too. Can we, because I've actually tried this and it's did not work. Can we edit the auto date hierarchy? Because like that sometimes I'll actually like to put the day of the week to the hierarchy so that it will be easier and instead of creating a different measure. So can we update the auto hierarchy?
Okay, so like like I said, it's auto date it's auto hierarchy, so it's automatically generated. So like just like the normal implicit measures, you don't know um what's going on in the back end for that. So it's not you can't see the option of adding to hierarchy yet. So yeah, I can even see create hierarchy here. But because this is already, I think this was the one that it already created. Normally, if it's a hierarchy you've created, you have the option to add something to an hierarchy, or by just before you could drag the field and it will automatically add to the hierarchy. But like you said, it's auto, and you've tried it before. It's auto created. So ideally, at that point in time, you may want to create your own hierarchy. You may want to dismiss the hierarchy already created and create your own hierarchy.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay. Okay, so I can see time is almost fast spent, but I'll just talk a bit on some useful logical function and we'll continue from there tomorrow. So right now we have days, we have the weekday, right? But what if we want to categorize things into and work day and non-work day? So I'm sure if we see this at the calendar, I think we have a field for work day, non-work day. So this is a very good calendar table which was created in Excel, I believe. But if we want our date table to have this categorization of weekday and work day and non-work day, how can we go about that? I think we can also do that in Power Query a bit, or to do that with DAX, how would we go about doing this? So with this, we can do a new column. So I just want the category to be here, and I call it work category. So for this, I'm going to say we have two weekends or so, two non-work days, which are Saturday and Sunday. While we have two, while we have the rest of the days rather are the rest of the days are work days. So in these scenarios, when we are asking the question, okay, if it's a Saturday or a Sunday, we want it to be classified as a weekend. If it is not a Saturday and Sunday, normally it's a work day. When you're asking those yourself logical questions, just know the simple answer to it is using if statements yeah. So for us to achieve this category, I'll just do equals to if. So if for people that have used Excel, so I'm sure you'll be used to the if syntax. But for those that are not used to Excel or that's just the first time coming into TextBase, if basically asks for three things, but it asks for two basic things, and we have an alternative result, which is just to point out any expression, just like in Excel, that is in this square bracket means it's an optional argument. Your expression will still run regardless of this criteria being met or being fed with data. So in this scenario, we want a situation where if it is Friday, if it is Saturday or Sunday, we want it to be weekend. If not, we want it to be something else. So in this situation, when we are asking the question or where we want two parameters, either one of the two parameters to be correct. So let me just type the OR expression. So OR asks for two logical expression. So for OR, we have OR and we have AND. Let me show you what AND does. The two both ask for two logical expression. But what OR does is that for OR, one of them has to be correct. For AND, two of the logical expression has to be correct. I don't know if we get what I mean. So for OR means that one of them, it could either be Saturday, it could either be Sunday. Either one of them that is correct is fine. It's fine. The argument passes. But and in the instance say that it has to be Saturday and Sunday. If not, we're not doing we're not doing anything. That's what and does. Right? So for this argument, we are going to use, okay, so if it is Saturday or Sunday, we should have, let's first use all for this argument. So if we'll just say day, this day, since we've created this day, is equals to, since we use small sats, comma, or the date equals to sun So we have this part of the argument sorted for the first logical test. Then the next argument is what should he return? What should he return if the argument is correct? That's the result if it's true. So the result if it's true is we want it to be weekend. And if it's false, so the last one, you can normally close it without it, but it should just automatically even give it probably blank or so. But we want a result if false, which is going to be work days. So remember, for me to write a string in an expression, I have to keep the quotation sign. I call this work day. And I close my brackets and I hit this. So we can just take a deep dive to look at it just to be sure. So I can see Friday is a work day, Saturday is a weekend, Sunday is a weekend, Monday is a work day, Tuesday, and it's working like that. It's working all well and good. So for this all argument, since I've specified, the table, I've specified the dates can either be Saturday, for either Saturday or Sunday dates, it should give me weekend. If not, it should give me a work day. So remember, if asks for three things, logical test, what do you want to test? What's the logic you want to test? And the logic we wanted to test was this. If the day is either a Saturday or a Sunday, then it asks you what should happen based on this logic. And what should happen based on this logic is it should return a weekend. If not, it should return a work day. So I just hit my okay. Then we have this formula. So we have work category. So this is a good use case of a calculated column and a good use case of logical functions and logical expressions. So thank you very much for staying so far. I hope you've learned a thing or two. So I'll be taking questions before we call it a day. Just some quick questions. So please go ahead.
Thank you for today's class. It was really insightful. And I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, and Samson, I'm really grateful. Please, I would like to know if you are still going to talk about plants and other related plants. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Yes. Sorry, what did you say? Hello.
Hello. Yeah, I got that. I guess that was Emmanuel, right?
Please, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay. Please, are you still going to talk about plant function?
Yes. Tomorrow is because of time. So it's blank. Yes, I'll talk about them as well. But because of time today, we had to quickly wrap things up. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Joseph, for that insightful session. It was really great. Please, if there's any question, you can just bring that up so that Joseph we clarify on that. With regards to the blank that Emmanuel had mentioned, right? I know that's one or two things we didn't touch under the logical functions, like ISBLANK, ISERROR, and the likes. That will be treated tomorrow alongside other stuff like the so-called almighty calculate time intelligence functions, as well as variance functions. When you talk about time intelligence, you are looking at last year, same period last year, year to date, and the likes. Looking at variance year on year, month on month, percentage change, and the likes, as well as quick measures and suggested measures. So, among other things that we will be looking at tomorrow. So, yeah. I don't know if there's any question with regards to what Joseph have done so far. Our time is fast spent.
Sorry, Joseph. So please, it's a little bit outside what we have done today. Thanks so much for the training. I really learned a lot in terms of that measures. Just about blanks. When we have blanks in our data, is it okay for us to do analysis on such columns? For example, we have a particular column that has maybe 70%, 30% empty cells. You understand? What do we do in case when we are dealing with dimensions and also for values? Yeah.
Okay. So for dimensions, your blank should not be in your dimension table. So for your dimensions, but when you are talking of value, maybe your fact table. So I know there are instances where probably no transaction was recorded, right? So that could lead to a blank value. But the issue with the blank is that you have fear that it could affect your average when you are probably analyzing averages, right? Yeah. So there is hello. Okay. So it's up to your to the data you want to analyze, right? If you know that yes, you want to probably get a more comprehensive data and all. So there are two techniques. There's a lot of technique, and there have been a lot of discussion on how you handle blank or no values. Some people state, oh, you should filter out the blanks. Some say, oh, if you filter out the blanks, you lose some pieces of information that are attributed to the blank. Okay, some say, okay, what you could do is replace blanks with zeros. Then when you are doing your analysis, you could ignore zeros. So yeah, so those are the three ways which you could. Those are two ways you can undo blank. So you can think of, oh, if it's in an entire row and probably one cell contains blank, and you want to use that data for an analysis, you don't want to remove. You are talking of Power Query, right? You don't want, sometimes Power Query will filter out the blanks and stuff. You don't want that scenario to happen. What you could do is probably maybe replace it with a zero, or if it's or you can keep it as a text. It's just that if you keep it as a text, if you replace it with a text, it could cause an error in your data type. So you have to leave that data type as any instead of a value. So you have to be sure of, okay, what sort of analysis do you want to do before you handle blank? You can filter it out. You can replace it. So those are the two best bets. But yeah, we would. There are a lot of blog. I think someone I know wrote a blog about that. I may share it out across later.
Hello.
All right. Okay.
Hello.
Thanks
Okay,
so much.
Samson, you may want to speak on that too as well.
Yeah, let me just chip in something. That was a very interesting question, and I know if not properly looked into, it will definitely lead to you getting a wrong output when you do your calculation, or get a wrong result. See. So most times I would suggest that if you have blank, right? You have blank. They are missing values, right? Blank is different from, if you have blank, I think you should just replace it with no value other than zero, because if depending on your data, like Joseph said, depending on your data, so during your data preparation, you need to understand your data first and foremost, right? And why cleaning your data, you need to know, okay, if you remove, let's say you want to filter out, because for some persons they might decide to filter out the blank and it won't affect whatever result that they want to get at the long run, right? Those ones,
Exactly.
yeah, those ones it's fine. But if in your own case, let's say the table you're working with has up to 10 or 5 columns, right? Definitely there are some other data in other columns that if peradventure you filter column C that contains the data that has some cell, I will say cell now, though not when you're working in Power Query, it's not referred to cell, but on Excel it's similar to that. So cells that contains that's empty value that has no value, right? If you filter, it will definitely affect other columns. So you wouldn't want to do that. And now let's say for your transaction data and you have some columns or some cells per se, that in that column that you have some cells that don't have any data. So it's best you fill that with no, replace blank with no, you get, than replacing it with zero. Because for instance, now maybe probably you want to replicate same thing for expense and the like. Some states or some region don't have an expense for that period, you get, and you replace with zero. It's giving a different meaning. It's two different things. So zero and no are two different things. So you would know which one is best for you at that point to use. But it's most likely you use no, to replace all those blank, other than using this thing. So while you're doing your divide, maybe average, you can handle that, while writing your DAX to do some calculation. You can further address that. So yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
All right. Any more question? Any more questions? So tomorrow we'll be deep diving into calculates and how we can use that to get our time intelligence and formulas, as well as write variance formula and quick measures, among other things. And one other thing that I need to chip in, when Joseph was taking us through the dates date functions, creating the date table. Something just occurred to me, right? I remember when I was back then when I wanted writing the taking the certification exam. So I saw that, and oftentimes you see people doing it, but they don't know the effects. It's this date. So when you have date and time, right? When you have date and time, please, it's most, no, depending on the data that you're working with, right? It's more preferable to split the date and time to a different column other than compressing it by changing date and time, a column containing date and time. You just click it and change it to just date. You get it affects the performance of your report if you are working with a huge data set. It will definitely affect the performance, the speed at which your data refresh or respond to whatever click, what is it called, slicing that you will be doing. So it's best why on Power Query you split those dates to go into a column and time to go into a different column. A best view is something that if you submit Microsoft forms. Microsoft Forms normally have this date and time. So you can decide to, maybe you want to make use of the dates and you just convert, go to change type and change date and time to just date. That will definitely affect the performance of your report. So yeah, I just needed to chip in that as well. Thank you, Joseph. You really did a great one. Tomorrow we'll continue and we hope not to stay this long as well. So I've put the form on the chat for us to just fill. Please kindly and just fill that. So we'll be getting the recording here.
Sorry, something. My phone is 1% now. I'm able to fill the form. My name is Mayowa.
Okay. Yeah. I've taken note of yours. Yeah, I've taken note of yours. So please, for those of us who are still here, kindly fill and just meet. And yeah, so you can, before you log out, you can just leave one or two comments for can just leave one or two comments with regards to how the session went today, right? So we'll still be on the call for the next let's say 3 to 4 minutes. So Joseph is still here. If you have any clarification, you can ask him with regards to what was done today. And tomorrow we'll continue with a number of things, right? Before you go, please fill the form and just drop your comments with regards to that. And we'll be sharing the recordings with you based on those data. So we'll meet same time tomorrow, and yeah, we'll meet same time tomorrow. We close, at least we are 18 minutes behind schedule. Due to we started late. I think we started 10 past 4, and that's really affected our closing time. So please, let's just try and join in early enough so that we can keep the session as early as possible.
I'm sorry, please, can I ask a question?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so I have two questions actually. So one is I think I understood how from the example that was done. I think I understand Sumx and Averagex, but I was now thinking, how does Countx work? I think that's my first question. Second question is that I think you mentioned that when we set our calendar table as our date table, we kind of would I say turn off the other calendar, like the other like done calendar, like date tables that they did for other like date columns, it turns it off. So I want to do like maybe a line chart or do some maybe like some time series analysis. Would we always have to create like a hierarchy? Because I think it automatically does the hierarchy for us when the you've not marked as a date table. When it removes it, would we have to automatically would we have to create the hierarchy by ourselves, or would it still be there? I think those are my two questions.
All right, thank you for that question. Joseph. Hi, Joseph, you are muted.
Hello, can you hear me, Malcolm?
Yeah, I can hear you, Joseph.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, so for the first question, yeah, so the Countx it works. The syntax is the similar syntax with the Sumx and Averagex. So if you want to count if, just think you can do it beyond that. I'm just using a more relatable example for how you can use Sumx and Averagex. But like count ifs, if you want to count based on okay, how many times was parts parts in that transaction, how many times the parts appear, so that's like if you are doing a count if, so that's exactly how you will use it. It's the same syntax. All you just need to do, it requires a table. The table could be a normal dimension table, or it could be an expression that leads to a table. Don't worry, our DAX guide can show you some of those expressions that leads to a table, and you can, and it now requests for an expression. Okay, to answer your second question of, yeah, if we turn it off, would we have to create hierarchy? Yes, because you've turned off the auto time feature, so that feature will normally turn off the auto hierarchy which is created. You remember that hierarchy you're seeing in Power BI is actually is actually done by Power BI making a hidden date table based on your date column that is there. So the reason why it's normally best, and for those that are probably interested in, like Samson said, the exam which he was referencing is the reason why it's normally best you turn. Sometimes they even advise you turn it off, is because it affects the performance of your model, because Power BI keeps on creating those hidden dates. So there are series of hidden date table based on the number of date columns you have there. So Power BI keeps on creating those hidden date tables. So you having a proper date table, you don't need those hidden date table features. But the only annoying part, which you may say, may be creating the hierarchies yourself. But that is easy to do as well by just dragging in the field which constitutes to your date, the date hierarchy as an hierarchy. So
Oh, okay, I understand. Thank you very much.
welcome. Okay, so Emmanuel's hand is up. So let's quickly take Emmanuel's question, then cut it in. Okay, Emmanuel has dropped his hands. So thank you everyone for staying to the end. Thank you, Samson. It was a wonderful experience. So hope to see you guys tomorrow.
All right, thank you, Joseph. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you, everyone. I'm looking forward to seeing you all tomorrow, early enough. All right, thank you.
Thank you for the class. See you tomorrow.
Thank you, Ada. Take care. All right, I will be ending the session now in just 5 seconds. Hi, Joseph.
All right, Samson, you may want to stop the recording. So just
Thank you. All right.